Hi everyone, this is James Hammond, the Brand Doctor, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining me on this webinar today, courtesy of the Eastern Board of CMI. And this webinar is all about how to build a powerful personal brand. In today's business world, having a strong personal brand is one of the most important assets there is, and that's regardless of whether the company you own or you work for is large or small, one person set up, i.e. you or the owner, or whether you're a junior, middle or senior level manager in someone else's company. A personal brand is a vital component of business success for you and your company. Apart from helping you stand out in the crowd, develop a following, get promotion, or start something new, it can really help boost business revenue. It can create long-term customer loyalty. It can grow your business, if you own one, to become a thought leader in its market. Over the last 35 years, I've consulted for global companies, SMEs, and right down to the single entrepreneur. In fact, I've even helped somebody in the House of Lords develop a powerful personal brand. And in that time, I've found that consistently one of the weakest parts of their enterprise is the lack of a dynamic and powerful personal brand. And even at board level, where you would think it would be a critical requirement, that requirement is sometimes very much lacking. But what exactly is a powerful personal brand? Is it simply dressing for success? Well, that's a part of it, and we will be looking at that in this webinar, but it's only one part. What about body language, or even simple things like shaking hands with someone? Now again, these are important elements and we'll consider them in the webinar, but they are not the whole story of personal branding. In fact, there's one very, very important point to make before we even start looking at those things. So in this webinar, what I'd like to do is cover these elements, but I want to present to you the overview of a 4-step process for creating a powerful personal brand, one that can really work for you. So let's begin. When we consider a powerful personal brand, let's consider brands overall first of all. The world we live in today is a world full of brands. Now you know that. You can look at these various logos that we've got on this slide, and I'm sure you recognize most, if not all of them. Now, of course, there are thousands more that you know, but the point is, we are surrounded by brands like this every day. In fact, by the end of today, and tomorrow, and the day after, and so on, we'll be exposed to a multitude of companies and celebrities, each one vying for attention and yelling in our ears, "Choose me, not her. Choose us, not them. Choose this, not that." Slogans, old and new, will tell us to just do it as you jog around the field, or that I'm loving it as I eat my burger, or that the drink that I've just downed is the real thing. So what is it about these businesses that grabs my attention? Is it just the price of their goods or services? Is it the products themselves? The answer is a resounding no on both counts, because some of these companies command a much higher price than their rivals, yet still outsell them every day. And that doesn't mean that the products are always better quality, because often they're the same product with just a different label glued or stitched in place when the factory bell rings in the afternoon maybe and the assembly line changes. What makes these businesses powerful is that they are outstanding brands. They've made a connection, a strong, usually emotional connection with their customers, and that connection has paid off big time. But it's not only companies that benefit from having a powerful brand. People are brands too. Again, we can look at these people on screen and know that there is something they have that makes them stand out from the crowd. Now, we may not personally like them or even follow them on social media, for example, but the fact remains that they have enough of a following to still be a strong brand. Let's take the picture in the bottom left-hand corner. Michelle Obama, the former First Lady of the USA. You know, in many polls, she was more popular than her husband when he was President of the United States. She has become a powerful personal brand, renowned for her public speaking, being a very engaging person, empathetic, and absolutely brilliant conversational skills. Even celebrities that are no longer in the spotlight still earn megabucks, such as David Beckham, who probably earns more now than he did when he was playing football a gazillion years ago. And there's a host of other singers and sporting stars and media personalities. Now let me ask, is it just that they are great at what they do? Well, they may be good, and I'm sure you'd agree that the ones that you can see on screen are very good at what they do. But it would be really foolish to think that there isn't anyone else out there with better skills or abilities. Let's take Lady Gaga. You might like her songs, you might not, but let's ask the question, is she really the best singer in the whole wide world? And the answer's got to be no. But then it doesn't really matter if she is or she isn't, because what matters is the brand. If you own a business, a powerful personal brand can provide major benefits for you. It can increase sales. It can create loyal customers. It can allow premium pricing. It can attract dedicated employees. And it can live beyond you or the founder of the business. So, for example, I showed a picture of Dame Anita Roddick, who founded the Body Shop, pictured. And she has passed away, sadly, but the Body Shop brand lives on and has lived on for a number of years now and is still a powerful, powerful brand. But if you are working in a business rather than leading one, regardless of what management level you're at, a powerful brand can put you in the spotlight, just like a company brand. It can position you as the go-to person, helping you to gain recognition in your particular niche or industry. It can help you climb the management ladder to where you want to get to, maybe eventually running your own business, if you don't already do that. And you can reach your full potential that you deserve to have. Let's ask one question. Are you similar to everyone else? This comment from the authors of Funky Business tells it like it is. They say the surplus society has a surplus of similar companies employing similar people with similar educational backgrounds, working in similar jobs, coming up with similar ideas, producing similar things with similar prices and similar quality. That's the way the landscape is at this moment in time. And if you're similar to everyone else, the chances are you're the person who is unpolished, uninteresting, and unlikely to move forward in business life unless you make some serious changes. Having a strong brand means you stand out from that similar crowd of similar people, and in that way you differentiate yourself from all those similar people that the authors talk about. So what exactly is a personal brand? It is the process of promoting you and gaining the best advantage of running a successful business, getting a promotion or a great job, and having ultimate success in life, however you are going to define that success for you. It's about presenting yourself in a consistent, appealing, creative and engaging way that gets you noticed by the right people. It's about influencing your target audiences who become your fans for life, whether it's in your work or your playtime. And how do you do that? By following these 4 steps. To make it easy to remember, I call these 4 steps that we're going to look at PICA, which stands for psychology, image, communication, and attitude. Psychology, Image, Communication, Attitude, Piker. So let's have a look at the first one, P for psychology. And I want to spend time on this first step of the personal brand process because it's the most important. In all of the years that I've been a coach and a mentor to hundreds of people wanting to create a powerful personal brand, there is one hurdle that they must overcome first, and that is their own self-esteem. The number one cause of a poor personal brand is low self-esteem. And when I'm teaching people and helping people to develop a personal brand, the starting point is usually this point here, the low self-esteem that they have, and the kind of answers that they give to me as to why they haven't already developed that brand, that strong brand. I'm not that good at what I do, they tell me. Or I'm not a particularly interesting person. There are other people who could do this job far better than me. That's the kind of thing that they say. All, of course, incorrect, because everyone can be an interesting person. But the one thing that you need for that is confidence. You need to be confident. Now, let's get this right. What do I mean by confidence? Because people have lots and lots of ideas about what confidence is. It's probably easier to say first of all what confidence is not. Confidence is not about being rude or arrogant. Don't you find people like that around you all the time, especially in management positions, unfortunately? Rude, arrogant, in your face a lot of the time. That is not confidence. In fact, quite often the opposite is true. People like that tend to berate others because they lack their own self-confidence. It's not about climbing mountains or swimming with the sharks or even walking over hot coals, as some people would have you do. Now, I'm not saying that things like team building exercises and going out and doing things like this can help you to develop confidence. But you know, confidence, like motivation, comes from within. It's an internal thing. It shouldn't rely on any kind of external clarification or credit to you. It's about you. It's about your confidence. It's about you having confidence in yourself. Also, it's not about being humble and quiet, as some people like to think, quietly confident. Well, I don't know if that really is something that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. Can you be quietly confident? Well, I guess you can in certain situations, but I can tell you now, if you want to build a powerful personal brand, humility and quietness are not two of the main criteria. Quite the opposite. You need to blow your own trumpet, and we'll come on to that. Confidence is not all about your looks or your money or your weight or the car that you drive. These are just material things or physical things. Confidence is nothing to do with your physical looks. It's about how you personally feel about yourself. And that's why confidence isn't about relying on others to say how good you are. You don't need to be verified by other people as though you've just given a speech and everybody's giving you feedback sheets on how you need to improve. That's not what confidence is about. Confidence comes from within. And neither is it like the humility thing, neither is it hiding your gifts and talents that you were born with, so that people don't know what you're capable of, and in fact maybe you don't know what you're capable of, or the skills that you learned. So what is confidence then? Confidence is about these three things. It's about passion. What motivates you? What drives you? How do you want to spend the rest of your time and your life? If you've got real passion, it intrigues you. Passion drives you. It makes you want to investigate things. It's something that's so strong in you that you may do it even if you weren't being paid to do it. Of course, It's nice to be paid, but what I'm trying to say is it's so strong a feeling inside of you that you would even pay for yourself to have that experience if you had to, because you're so passionate about what it is that you want to do. And then there's the strengths. What are your abilities and strengths that produce a positive outcome when you use them? Now I want you to notice something here. None of this has anything to do with weaknesses. You know, sometimes you go for a job interview, they ask you what your strengths are, and then they say, what about weaknesses? Building a powerful personal brand has nothing to do with weaknesses. We all have weaknesses of some kind or other, but people with powerful personal brands never focus on weaknesses because, frankly, they're not relevant. Now, if you need to work on a weakness that you have, something that you would like to improve upon, as we all do, then do it. And then turn that into another success factor and a strength that you have. And then what about values? This is really important because it builds integrity as well. What do you value that you won't stray from, no matter how lucrative the rewards might be? You know, Anita Roddick wouldn't stray from her strong beliefs and passion for things like non-animal testing or fair trade or ethical management when she created the Body Shop. And it doesn't matter whether the company, the Body Shop, could have made a gazillion more profits or whatever, not at the expense of something that she took a stance on and she would not stray from. What is it for you? So what are the key areas that you need to focus on then for building a powerful personal brand? I love these little mnemonics that help me to remember a particular sequence of things, so I've called these key areas SOARS, S-O-A-R-S. It stands for strengths, opportunities, aspirations, results, and a statement. Notice again, no mention of weaknesses here because they are simply not relevant to a powerful personal brand. So what are your strengths? What strengths do you feel that you have? Whether it's in your skills and abilities, whether it's the qualifications that you gained and that you're putting to good use now and you feel that you could do more, what are those strengths? Maybe it's tenacity, maybe it's stick-to-itiveness that's good for you, that you're very strong in. Maybe it's being able to be calm under pressure. All of the kind of stuff that you actually would put on your CV to give you the best chance of getting the job that you've gone after. And then, what are the opportunities to use those strengths in your business, your team, or your department? What can you do to open the doors to be able to use those strengths to maximum benefit for your company, but more importantly, for you, for building your brand? And then, what are your aspirations for the future? What do you aspire to in, let's say, 2, 3, 5, even 10 years' time? Do you have a plan? Have you set a goal for where you want to go and how you want to get there? And then once you are there, once you've completed that journey that you aspired to complete, what will be the results of you achieving them? And then finally, what is the statement that could be said or written about you when you're not in the room? That is the true value of a powerful personal brand, when you're not around and people say, you know what? That person is fantastic. What a fantastic character. What a dynamic person. What a powerful personal brand that they have. Now, this is my source from a very long time ago, a gazillion years, longer than I definitely care to remember for the purposes of this webinar. But when I started up Brand Doctor Consulting, this was my focus, SOARS. So, I had my idea of my strengths. I had a deep knowledge of branding. I felt that that deep knowledge was actually better than anybody else's because I'd been a psychotherapist as well, took my psychology degree and knew an awful lot about how people think. That I thought, thinking about the opportunities to use those strengths, that I could become, if you like, a brand teacher. My aspiration then was that I wanted to write a book on branding. And it didn't take me very long before I actually did that, and it's still, after about 9 years, it's still an extremely successful book and a seller still. And then the actual results of me achieving my aspirations would be that I'd be the top branding expert, and others consider me to be that top branding expert, both here and abroad. And what is that statement that could be said or written about me when I'm not in the room? Well, I haven't taken too much research on that, but I'd like to think that at least somebody would be saying the brand doctor really shows how to build a powerful brand, because I'd like to think that I've built my own powerful brand. So, with the psychology bit out of the way, let's turn to the second stage, the second step, which is I for image. Now, whether we like it or not, image and style are vitally important in building our personal brand. And although the old statement that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover might be true, it's not how we behave. First impressions count. And those first impressions are basically over and done with within 5 seconds. You only have 5 seconds to have an effect on people. And because most of that is visual, then we need to think about image and style. We judge others based on the clothes they wear. Like I said, we do judge a book by its cover. Whether that's right or wrong, it's a fact. And here's another fact: what you wear can not only influence your target audience that you're talking with, it can also influence your own thinking and negotiating skills. A lot of research has been conducted which basically says when you wear something really good, you feel good about it. And that's true, isn't it? At least most of the time. When you're wearing something that you feel is quite powerful, then basically do you not feel yourself that I feel quite confident wearing this? And then things like other research has shown the fit and style of dress has a major impact on how managers are rated, and on intelligence, confidence and success, important things like that. And what research has discovered, even in the dressing down age that we have, the more formal the clothing, the higher the ratings in each one of those categories. Leslie Everett, a very well-known image consultant, says this. She says, how you dress, your hair, accessories, the whole picture should be an extension of you. A key point is to dress appropriately, both according to your personality, but also thinking about who your audience is, your clients, and what their expectations are, what the situation is or the environment, and what your objectives are. Now, I'm not a fashion expert, and there are plenty of image consultants out there that can help you put together a wardrobe that works for you, along with the right kind of scents, aftershaves, cosmetics and so on. In fact, there's an exceptionally good image consultant based in the East Anglia area. And so as not to make this an overt promotion, if you email me, then I will give you the details. But the important thing is how you dress, your hair, accessories, etc. should be an extension of you. And the key point is to dress appropriately, both according to your personality, but also, of course, about the environment. So let's think about that for a moment because of this dressing down age era that we're in. Because I'm often asked about whether dressing down or dressing up is the correct approach. But like Leslie says, you need to match your style to the kind of people you want to influence. If your audiences are formally dressed, then you'd be pretty crazy to dress down, wouldn't you? But on the other hand, if you're dealing with audiences that wear smart casual rather than formal wear, then you need to take this into account when you choose your wardrobe. People like IT people and maybe creative people in ad agencies or design consultancies do tend to be a lot more dressed down than formal. And one example is Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, who always walks around in jeans, trainer and t-shirt. I think I've only ever seen him wear a suit once when he was probably pitching for some more investment in Facebook, but most of the time he actually just wears jeans and a t-shirt. So consider the setting, however. As Professor Michael Krauss at Yale School of Management says, Mark Zuckerberg is in a creative enterprise. Remember what I was saying? Design consultancies, advertising agencies, or web design companies, or maybe even IT companies. People like that are playing around with their status symbols. But he goes on to say, for most of us, however, high status means suit and probably a tie, and whatever the female equivalent to that might be. Okay, let's take a moment now to consider your body language. Verbal communication is not enough by itself to help you have the kind of strong brand that people feel connected to. Having said that, it's important to state that a lot of what is written about body language is absolute nonsense. Let me give you a couple of examples. How many times have you been told or you've read that if someone is folding their arms, it means they're on the defensive? Well, I think that's pretty stupid a statement. I fold my arms all the time for one reason, and one reason only. I actually find it a very comfortable stance. So you'll often see me folding my arms, but it doesn't mean that I want to be defensive or any of the other rubbish that they're talking about. Here's another one. Touching or rubbing the nose signifies disbelief, rejection, or lying about something. When I rub my nose, it's for one reason only. It itches, nothing more. Don't you do that? Don't you rub your nose if your nose itches? So you need to be careful about what you read. But having said that, there are crucial areas of body language that should be a focus. Let's go through them. What about posture? Are you a straight person or a slouch? You know, if you slouch, it's pretty difficult to be confident at the same time. But if you stand up straight, then you can be more confident. So how is your posture? What about when you're sitting down? Are you sort of all over the place, or do you sit in a formal way when the audience needs you to be formal? It is a question again of looking at the environment and considering that, but we're talking today about building a powerful personal brand, and that requires you to have good posture. What about head motion? Do you act like you're dead from the neck up? Or are you active with your head? If you're talking to someone and you're listening as well, and of course listening is a crucial element of building a powerful brand, being a good listener. And being a good listener means not only taking in what that person or those people are saying, but being able to nod your head in agreement at times, or nodding your head to at least acknowledge that you are listening to what they are saying. And if you're nodding your head because you're acknowledging that, what about when somebody may be telling you something that you might find surprising or unusual, or you're amazed at something? Maybe you would shake your head in as though you were saying no because you're amazed. You know, you know the kind of thing that I'm talking about here, but it's really important that you practice these things and you get them right, ready for building your brand. And what about facial expression? Do you look as though what you're saying is what you mean? Or do your eyes or your mouth say something different? Facial expressions are very, very important, and I think that comes about when you're confident, when you have integrity, and when you really do say what you mean. And then what about eye contact? Do you look at the person? I'm not talking here about staring at them. Do you look at the person occasionally? Or do you just keep looking away, looking around as though there's somebody or something more interesting than the person that you're talking with at that point in time. Again, eye contact, very, very important. And what about gestures? What about the idea that you can be very excited, if you like, about talking about something, especially when you're giving a presentation, where you can use hand gestures? If you're talking about the sales going up, raise your hands. If you're talking about sales going down, you can look a little bit sadder and push your hands down. Many gestures that you can utilize as part of your positive body language that will help you to build your powerful personal brand. And what about the dreaded handshake? Okay, it might seem a little obvious that a person with a powerful brand should have a good handshake, but how many times have you met someone with an awful handshake? Studies suggest that 26% of companies who are hiring managers at either a junior, middle or senior level say a weak handshake is the major factor in determining whether or not that candidate is successful in getting the job, and that's regardless of qualifications or experience. Yeah, it's that bad. A handshake is absolutely essential in business life, isn't it? But a bad handshake can do a lot of harm for your powerful personal brand. So let's just look at 3 categories of bad handshake that I've certainly experienced over the years, and I'm sure you have too. The first one is the one that I call the wet fish. Shaking hands with the wet fish person is a horrible sensation, and for me it's almost impossible to describe, but it's definitely unpleasant. What it says psychologically is this person is weak in character, cold in nature, just like a wet fish, insincere, and has a lack of commitment. Now, just one caveat to that: we need to be careful, because in Asian and certain African cultures it demonstrates respect actually to just be gentle, and a firm handshake can be seen as offensive. But you see, most people overdo this gentleness, and again it's a kind of a floppy wrist, and you don't quite know what to do with the other person's hand. As far as your own brand is concerned, a firm handshake is what is required. Now notice I said firm. That doesn't mean that you break people's bones. And so this is the other bad handshake, the bone cruncher as I call it. Firm is not the same as crunching bones. Now this is true. One woman had all of her nails broken on her hand after an idiot bone crunched in the handshake. Bone crunchers are often people who are actually insecure themselves, and what they do is they try to make up for this with a crushing handshake. You usually find people like that are the ones that are generally in your face and don't have very much emotional control over themselves. And then the third one is what I call the finger grab. It makes me laugh, this one, because it always reminds me of a medieval dance. This kind of handshake that you see in medieval kind of dances in great big palaces. And again, please don't shoot the messenger, and I'm not trying to be sexist here, but research suggests that it's usually given by a female, limited by outdated social expectations from times gone by. Thankfully they are times gone by when women were expected to shake hands very softly and to be seen and not heard almost. Now that's enough about image, because we can do a whole webinar on that. So I want to go now to the third step, which is C for communication. How we communicate our powerful brand depends on who you are talking to. So it's important to define your audience. Now you need to understand that you will never appeal to everyone. It's impossible to do that, so we should stop trying. We can't do that in our general lives, and we certainly can't do it with building a powerful personal brand, so we should stop trying. You can't win them all is a true statement. And I suggest to you that you remember something that I call the 33 1/3% rule. That is that 33 1/3% of people will like you, 33 1/3% will dislike, and 33 1/3% don't care either way. And that is true. And of course the ones that you want to move towards are the ones that like you. Because if they like you, they tend to be like you. And that really does help with building your powerful brand. Not even the biggest, most powerful personal brands can claim a following of everybody. Now we need to define our target audience as well, as specifically as you can. Ask yourself, who can I influence? What kind of people make up my market? Who needs to be impressed? So for example, if you're in sales, maybe you're a sales manager, your client base should provide answers for this. Try profiling the clients you most connect with and build your own personal brand around them. If you're a manager in a company and looking to advance, then who can help you to get where you need to go? What kind of brand will work best to get you to that next level of management or that promotion, whatever it happens to be? And then I've got a bullet point here that says create your brand bite to answer this question, what do you do? And answer it in an emotive way, or certainly enhance the answer that people normally give. Because if you consider, let's say, being at a party and someone asks you the question, what do you do? In all my years in business, these are the kinds of answers that I've heard people give. People usually say, for example, I'm a manager at a technology business. Okay, fine. Or I sell XYZ service or product, whatever that happens to be. Or I make strategically aligned major decisions for multi-platform server-based operations. Well, I think I've probably lost the will to live by the time you've finished answering a simple question, what do you do? And the other one that I often hear when networking, I'm managing director of my own company. Well, that doesn't tell me anything at all, but what these all have in common basically is they're telling me their job title. And a powerful personal brand is not your job title. So what is a brand bite? What is this brand bite that you need to get together and make sure that you've got it word perfect? A brand bite is a short, emotive statement about you and your work or ambitions, depending on the audience. So knowing that, the first thing that we must ensure is that we do not use jargon or in-speak when we're giving the answer to what do you do? Think in terms of value, not the process. What do you bring to the table? Again, it's sort of coming back to the kind of thing that you would put on your CV. So if someone says, what do you do? Instead of just saying, I'm an HR manager at XYZ company, why not say something along the lines of, I am a human resource manager with a strong track record in helping to identify and recruit top-level talent into management. Now you can probably do something a little bit better than that. That's probably a bit long, but hopefully you get the point. Or you could say, I'm a financial manager and I make sure my clients don't outlive their money. You can also turn your brand bite into a question. So when someone asks you, what do you do? You can say something like, well, you know those little cardboard packages you buy sandwiches in? I manage the entire process of making those from start to finish, ensuring that each one is made to our exacting standards. So that's told the person quite a bit, but not the full story. So the good The good part about this is, depending on who you are talking to, that may well lead to the ideal second response from them, which is, "Really? You do that? Tell me more." You need to practice your brand bite until you get it word perfect. No tripping over the tongue, no stuttering, no forgetting what you're supposed to say. I used to practice my own brand bite again and again and again in front of a mirror until it sounded totally natural and confident when I said it. Having a polished and professional brand bite can really, really build your personal brand, and you do need one. Next to the brand bite, you need a brand story. Every brand should have a story to tell. But you know, all too often, even the company brand stories are boring. We see websites where the opening statement is something like, "Our business started in Ipswich in 1803 by our great-great-great-great-grandfather Josiah Smith, and after that we moved to bigger premises, and after that," and by that time you're yawning, you're falling asleep, or more than likely you've just moved on to another website. You know, what a missed opportunity to utilize one of the most amazing tools in your brand toolbox. A brand story is your chance to engage your audience at the emotional level by telling a meaningful story. It's like writing a movie script, looking to move the audience with strong emotions. So let's consider some of the ways in which you can build a compelling emotional base for your story. What about your history? You know, how did you get where you are today? Was your background one of poverty and deprivation, but through your determination you succeeded? I'm reminded of Colonel Sanders, who created Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC as it's known now, who at 75 years of age lost the petrol station that he was operating on a pittance simply because a highway was built that actually bypassed his petrol station. So it went out of business. And at 75 years of age, there's not a lot else you can do. But he has his little mother's chicken recipe, and he just used to cash his pension check, go out to a restaurant, try and sell the concept of KFC to them. Had lots of rejection, but he was determined to succeed, and eventually he did. And of course you can guess the rest of the story yourself. It was a struggle. It was a sacrifice. Have you struggled and sacrificed to get where you are today? What has been that journey that, for example, if you were writing a movie script, you can write it in such a way that people would want to watch that movie? And what about your mentors? Who are your family members or friends or people that you admire, past and present? Some time back, I can't remember which mobile company it was, but there was an advertising campaign for this mobile phone company. And the television campaign asked the question, who would you most like to have a conversation with? And people chose a whole variety of scientists, philosophers, Nobel Prize winners, and so on. It was very, very emotive because people gave reasons why they chose that particular person. So what about you? Your mentors? Who are your family members, friends, people that you admire, past and present, that are part of your story emotionally? And then what about your achievements? What have you done in your life that's worth telling others about? It could be about the work that you do, your qualifications, your personal achievements. To get qualifications is hard. So there's a story there somewhere. Or it could be outside of work, in sport or some other activity. The main point is to make it emotional and link it to the benefits this experience has brought to your company, industry or profession. It's what you bring to the table. And obviously there's a need in building that powerful personal brand to promote yourself. You need to communicate your brand. You need to write a great personal bio and get it circulated. You need to make sure that anyone who needs to know about you has a copy, electronic or printed. And by the way, don't listen to anyone who tells you that this bio or CV should only be a certain length, no more than 2 pages. Nonsense. Or, this is the crazy one for me, that it shouldn't contain your photograph. Who in the world came up with that? It's nonsense. A powerful personal brand captures the audience's attention, and that's regardless of how long a bio or a CV is. The main point is, get it circulated. And what about other things that you could do to promote yourself? Write a book. Huh? Well, I wrote a book, and I'm not a book writer, but I managed to write a book. It took some time, and I made mistakes on the journey, but that's great, because now I have that powerful personal brand and a book to back it up. Or write something and then offer it as a PDF. Do some free downloads for people. Do some white papers. Write a white paper about a specific thing in your business or industry. Creating online content is a sure way to attract a huge audience, and it can also set you apart from the rest in the company that you actually work for. Don't wait to be asked. Why not write a white paper for your company about one of its products or services or some aspect of what you do, and submit it to your supervisor, team leader, boss, line manager, or whatever, and then ask for feedback. Get suggestions on what other items you could produce. Add value to your position and make sure you are seen as someone who's eager to move forward and up the ladder if that's what you want. And what about networking? Yes, you need to do that. Network as much as you can, and that includes social media. So what about blogs? Create your own online blog. Comment on online posts within the relevant content communities that are to do with your industry or profession. Use Google Alerts to get regular notices about what's going on in your line of work so that you can respond accordingly and you are kept up to date about things that are going on, things that are happening. Of course, LinkedIn is the one place that you have to be. Make sure that your LinkedIn page is up to date and interesting. Write some articles for people to read and put them on your LinkedIn account, on your LinkedIn page, and don't make that page look just like a copy of your CV. There's much more to you than just the details, the tangible details of your CV. Put something on there that's emotive. And what about Facebook? Everyone who is anyone is on Facebook. Like LinkedIn, it's a good talent search engine. Don't put banal sentences on there about how you just brushed your teeth or what you had for breakfast. We're talking here about using social media as a communications channel for your personal brand. Write about your overall life goals, where you are in your career, what you're passionate about, and your expertise in your field of work. Remember, this is about building your own self-esteem, blowing your own trumpet, telling the world, I'm really good, and I'm confident about being good. What about YouTube? Video is one of the most effective ways to promote your personal brand, and of course nowadays with the phones that we have, the smartphones, it's quite easy to make a short video. The right video content is important, however, and while you may look at a lot of videos on YouTube that are funny, unless you want to be a comedian as a career, then focus on being interesting and emotive where you can, to do with you, what you're aspiring to be. Remember source, and use the previous ideas about your brand bite and brand story to engage the relevant target audiences for your brand. And then of course there's Twitter. A lot of people can waste an awful lot of time on Twitter, but you don't have to spend hours tweeting. And if you work for a company, you won't have the time anyway. I suggest you set a goal of no more than 10 minutes a day. And you could easily achieve that first thing in the morning, then a little bit at lunchtime, and then in the evening. You can set your Twitter account up using the inspiring and exciting content we've talked about now for your brand bite, your brand story, your bio, emotion thrown in there so that people start following you. Twitter is about people following people. And of course, you need to look at the kind of people on Twitter who can help promote your brand and your skills and follow them. This will include people from your industry, plus the people that they in turn follow. Find tweets that are interesting and informative, and then retweet them. These are the kinds of ways in which you do need to promote yourself, and it's a never-ending thing. If I stop promoting myself, even though I guess I'm reasonably well known, they'd soon forget me, because out of sight, out of mind, the old saying. Now, what about if you don't have a company business card? Well, get your own. Create your own business card. Promoting yourself is about promoting you. And I'm always surprised when people hire me to help them build a powerful personal brand, and when I say, well, can I have your business card? They say they don't have one. Or if they work for a company, they say, well, our company doesn't issue business cards at my level. And my response is always the same. Who's in charge of promoting your personal brand? Your company or you? If your company doesn't give out business cards at your level, ask the boss if you can pay to have one. I mean, what harm does it do? What harm is it doing to the company, other than probably make all of your team members or department colleagues very, very jealous and wondering how you managed to do that? But again, this isn't about your colleagues. This isn't even about your boss. This is about you. And if your boss turns around and says, no, you can't have a company business card, then go out and get a business card made for you. Make it a personal card. So no company logo or details, but there's no reason why you can't say who you are in terms of your job title as well and put that on the card. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But rather than putting the company contact details on that card, put your own personal contact details, just like you would on a CV, and then print your brand bite on it. And if you want to enhance the card, you can get a logo that reflects your brand. There are online services that can print inexpensive cards and provide logos at very low cost. I've interviewed hundreds of people over the years for senior manager and director positions for companies that I've been consulting for. And I'm gobsmacked that of all of these hundreds of people, only 3 people have ever handed me a business card they've created for themselves. And you know what? Just that little tiny difference meant that all 3 were put on the shortlist, and 2 of them were offered positions in the company, even though there was only 1 position originally available. Personal branding requires you to be proactive. It's not about what others are going to do for you. It's about what you are going to do for yourself. Don't expect other people to drive it forward. Yes, it's nice to have testimonials and endorsements from others, but that's once you've built your brand. You need to build your own brand. And what about having your own website? Well, gasps. Well, why not have your own website? Can you imagine anyone with a powerful personal brand not having their own site? Now, I'm not talking about you blowing all of your salary on a bells and whistles site. I'm talking about the fact that you've bothered to promote yourself online in addition to social media. And you can launch your own website using things like WordPress.com. WordPress.com will give you a website absolutely free. And that website will then give you the chance to create your own content, write blogs, tell your brand story, post the relevant images and videos and such like, and get feedback from your target audience. This is so important because you need to be as visible as you can. And that visibility doesn't have to be just related to your daily job. You can do fun things or community things or work things that no one else is doing or perhaps even thought of. Can you play a musical instrument or sing? Well, if you can, organise a concert for your customers or your firm. And if you can't sing, get somebody else to sing and organise a concert for your customers or firm. What about doing some coaching in a business or a non-business field? You could do that, couldn't you? What about running a seminar or a workshop? Or if you don't want to do it with relevance to business, how about something like a wine tasting event, a culinary masterclass if you're a good cook or good chef, and promote it as an evening with, and then of course you put your own name. What about getting involved in pro bono charity work and get your clients or work colleagues involved too? Now, of course, some of these things will need permission from your line manager or some other person in your company before you can actually carry them out. But you know, if you're building your personal brand in all the other areas that you've covered, then you should stand a good chance of getting approval. And even then, if the answer is no and continues to be no each time you try to do something within the company that you work for, then all I can say is maybe it's time you thought about going somewhere else where they will appreciate you more. But if you're not building your brand, what is there to appreciate? You remember the similar society, and you don't want to be a part of that. Okay, let's finally look at A in Piker, which stands for attitude. You can dedicate countless hours to perfecting your brand bite and your brand story. You can go on courses to update your skills, you can network, and you can do all the other practical things in building your brand. But no amount of experience, qualifications, or even hard work can ever compensate for a poor attitude. You can't always control what happens, that's true, but you can control your own attitude and how you deal with it. Your attitude is like a price tag. It shows how valuable you are. But it also reflects how valuable you are to yourself. A bad attitude is like a flat tire. If you don't change it, you'll never go anywhere. You know, you can't make everyone like you, and it's not important anyway. Remember that 33 1/3% rule? You know, 33 1/3% like you, 33 1/3% dislike you, and 33 1/3% couldn't care less either way, that I mentioned earlier. But it's not important for you to build a powerful personal brand that gathers everybody together. As long as you are who you are, aiming at the right people, your powerful brand will gravitate them to you. I've got this little mnemonic that I like. I like mnemonics, don't you? This one here comes from the sales arena. Some will, some won't, so what? Next. You know, let's move on. Some will like you, some won't, so what? Next. Let's move on. Your attitude is critical because your attitude is about your behaviour, not the other person's. That's their problem if they've got a bad attitude. But if you've got a bad attitude, then it's your problem. And certainly if you're building a powerful brand, you do not want bad behaviour. What about emotional resilience when the going gets tough? And it will. Not everything is going to go smoothly in terms of you building your powerful brand. I've had bad times and I've had good times in business, but what matters is not what the world throws at you. It's about how you respond to what gets thrown at you. It's about flexibility when dealing with others. It's about being a great listener, genuinely interested. That's one of the key characteristics and qualities of Michelle Obama's personal brand. It's about self-control. You know, there's lots of things in the world today like road rage or arguing about I was first in this queue or whatever, a total lack of self-control. You can't do that if you want to build your powerful personal brand. It's about being optimistic. It's about the glass being half full, not half empty. It's about being committed to where you want to go, goal-oriented. And you can do those things. And of course, it's about using your initiative whenever possible. Attitude, folks, is everything. You can be assertive, nothing wrong with that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be assertive. You can hold fast to your ideals and opinions, and you should. You can express your feelings when you are angry, nothing wrong with that, or when you're sad, or when you're happy. But your attitude will determine totally how you keep everything in control. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, "I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions." I like that statement. I'm not a product of my circumstances, I'm a product of my decisions. But I'd like to add to that and say, I am not a product of my circumstances, I am a product of my decisions and my attitude. Attitude for building a personal brand is everything. So, we've reached the end of this webinar on building a powerful personal brand, and I do hope that the information has been helpful to you and that you'll take away that 4-step process I call PICA: psychology, image, communication and attitude, and use these 4 steps as the building blocks for your own brand. Never forget that you are unique in the world. There isn't any other person like you. Even your twin sister or brother does not have the same DNA that you do. Don't let that uniqueness fade away in the background and become that similar person in a similar line of work doing similar things. Instead, use your knowledge, skills and attitude to create an authentic, powerful personal brand, one that connects with the hearts and minds of those who, through your brand, know you, like you and trust you, and maybe even aspire to be like you. I do wish you every success in building your powerful personal brand.